If you log on, it's 9 o'clock exactly. If you log on to social media right now, you'll probably see lots of adverts and messages, particularly this time of year, from politicians trying to win your vote in 2 days' time.
But can you always trust what you see? This morning there are calls for urgent new rules on the way that the political parties are using the internet during the election campaign. Our digital elections reporter Joe Tidy reports.
Thanks everybody.
The general election campaign trail has clocked up hundreds of handshakes, speeches and miles on the bus. It's all been fairly well stage managed and conventional. Online it's been anything but. Doctored videos have gone viral. This controversial one from the Conservatives made Labour's Sir Keir Starmer look tongue-tied. This one from Labour supporting group Momentum almost got them sued by Coca-Cola. But the real battleground has been in paid-for ads, particularly on Facebook and Instagram. Nearly 20,000 have been launched since the election began, with at least 2 million spent so far. Most are highly targeted and use the social network's digital tools to hone in on specific voters. Certain ads are being chosen for us based on age, location, interests and gender. So how much of a difference will all this political advertising actually make? Well, we won't start to know the answers to that until Thursday, when this building, along with about 50,000 others, turns into a polling station. We've come here to speak to people about the ads they've seen and the ones they haven't. Here's an advert that I'm sure you wouldn't have seen. This is aimed at 18 to 34-year-old women. And it's only being aimed at 45-year-old men and older.
Fast. It's not so particularly appealing.
It's making you laugh.
There's the tagline.
What do you think of that? Not aimed at you, but what do you think of the message? So how do you feel about the fact that the parties are aiming very different messages and very different adverts to different people in the country?
Well, it's all marketing, isn't it?
I think that's the modern age, isn't it, really?
I think it's quite worrying because it just means you have to find the best message for you and for me, which doesn't really have any relation to what's best for the country.
Her fears are mirrored by a growing number of groups calling for reform in political ads, particularly around fact-checking, which isn't currently a legal requirement.
We need some rules in line with the mantra that governs all other advertising, for it to be legal, decent, honest and truthful, that sets out what you can and can't say in an ad. And specifically, you have some rules around material claims.
These changes have been called for years, and it's up to whoever's in power next to take on the challenge. Joe Tidy, BBC News.
Well, I'm delighted to say Joe is with us now. Joe,
Morning.
Can you clear any of this up for us? What can we believe? And when we see things maybe on social media, can we always believe them straight away? How is this working in this election?
It's really, really hard because in this election, you've got party loyalties being strained, you've got Leave, Remain, Brexit debate up in Scotland, you've got independence debate as well, and everyone is in their own little bubbles, and every now and then they pierce each other's bubbles and you get these rows taking place on social media, and you get coordinated campaigns to try and derail conversations as well. If something is going in a certain direction, there'll be campaigners and people who support one party or one opinion who put out some misinformation, some disinformation, some fake news to try and get people to talk about it in a different way. So it's really, really hard in this election.
I was listening to a really fascinating debate on 5 Live yesterday. They had sort of traditional Conservative voters, traditional Labour voters and traditional voters from all the major parties talking about how the sort of Leave Remain element to the election and Brexit has confused those traditional lines. So, for example, you had a Conservative yesterday who happened to be Remainer, but was now confused about which party he should support and which sort of, is he a traditional Conservative or should he vote, you know, should his views on Brexit now change the way he votes in this election? And that seems to have really sort of thrown things out of kilter a little bit in this election.
Yeah, and some of the most fascinating groups on Facebook that I've been following since the start of the election are the pro-Remain and the pro-Leave groups. And the rows that are taking place on there, there's so much debate happening on every single policy that's announced. How will this affect our chances of leaving? How will this affect our chance of getting a second referendum vote? And sometimes they seem to be arguing with each other inside these groups because they don't know what to do. And you're getting people supplying advice, oh, well, this means we should definitely vote for this candidate because, of course, this means that we'll definitely leave. And it is really complex what's going on, especially on Facebook. On the groups on Facebook, we're seeing some really heated debate and actually some quite nasty stuff as well.
And how do you work out then what to do? If you're a voter who hasn't decided yet, you're on Facebook or any of the social media platforms, how do you know who to believe?
Well, I suppose we would say this, and there'll be people that watching this that don't believe this, but I suppose you turn to the traditional news outlets and the ones that you trust. And also there are some really good independent fact-checking organisations this election as well, because Google and Facebook have been so pressured to do more about transparency. They are actually helping to fund some of these independent groups. So, for example, First Draft or Fact Check, these guys are doing some good work. And Full Fact, sorry, not Fact Check, that's something completely different.
Yeah.
That's something separate.
But all part of the same problem. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that was a real moment, wasn't it, when the Conservatives rebranded their Twitter account to Fact Check UK. That was a real... there was a sort of line that was potentially crossed there. I mean, the debate is still ongoing about whether or not that was wrong. The Conservatives say that it was just a bit of fun and trying to raise awareness on some of Labour's lies. But there are lots of people saying that was a serious moment in online campaigning and a line was crossed there.
Fascinating debate, Joe. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. For something completely different, in a moment we're going to be talking about RAF heroes.
Yeah.
And remembering there's only